Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's AMA. We're going to give it a few minutes. We got some more people joining the stage. We'll give a couple minutes for people to filter into the audience, and then we'll be getting started. Ah, there's the dutiest beetle. I was waiting for him.
Oh
We'll
yeah.
we'll give it just
People
enough
duty.
for people to fill in, and then we'll fire off.
I'm just still laughing that you said duty.
I didn't even mean it that way when it was in my head, but as soon as I said it, I heard it.
Look what you started.
It's okay. Second best dad isn't here today, so you automatically win today.
Yes. Apparently some people actually have more of a life on Fridays than Thursdays. All of my kids are at home from school early today, so yeah, it's kind of crazy.
Yeah, we're gonna have to talk to second best dad about that. That's unacceptable. There's no lives allowed here.
All the little fox kids running around in the background. Hopefully you can't hear them.
You have to refer to your kids as pups from now on.
I think technically they're kits for foxes.
Kids. I think you are right. Yeah, good call. What are I don't know what I was thinking of. Anyway, we can get started with our AMA now.
That's right, Tippy. Well,
Oh, there you go. All right. Well, welcome to our AMA and sometimes our random ramblings. Uh, but we have a pretty full AMA planned today. We've got updates on several topics planned. Some of them may be a little bit longer than others. So we are going to get to some questions at the end, but we may not get to every question. If we don't get to every question, they're still going to be on the talk site, which means that they will be there for next week. So if we don't get to your question, don't worry, we will. But we will get to as many as we can in our time frame today. So with that, let's get kicked off by Fox.
yeah, thanks. As you mentioned, there is a lot to cover in today's AMA, and we had this on Friday instead of Thursday as usual because a lot of our team was still traveling. There was a lot of stuff going on last week with events, which we'll be sharing some updates on too. So stay tuned for those. Really exciting news there on those fronts. Yeah, a lot to talk about. I guess the first one, really quick and easy, is gas. We monitor our prices for gas on our chain very closely and have been experimenting, trying to find a good sweet spot. We're still experimenting, but we did release a change yesterday after extensive simulations and discussions and meeting with Ava Labs and things like that. We made some adjustments, and so you'll probably notice that it's a lot lower currently for gas. So we're excited about that. We'll continue to monitor it to see that it's allowing our chain to stay stable. And there is a possibility in the future, if there's a lot more spam or things like that, that we may have to do like incremental steps in the future as well. Magnus was very much involved with that, and I just want to give him a big kudos for all of his work there. Anything you wanted to add on that front, Magnus?
Yeah, I'll just give a big thank you to Ava Labs for always being there to give us kind of technical consultations on this topic. Tuning gas fees, it's a bit of a moving target since there's different types of transactions on the chain and also just volume changes throughout the day. And there's kind of a point where there's enough block space that the gas fees are pretty low. and then as soon as those start to ramp up, they kind of go exponential. And so it's constantly we're trying to stay on the right side of that exponential curve, and there's a limited kind of subset of things we can tune given kind of the limitations of the EVM. So we'll constantly be monitoring that and making sure we can keep the chain kind of balanced and performing well.
Yep. And yeah, I mean, our current state of our chain is in a very good spot. You know, like we've done over half the amount of transactions that Avalanche C chain has done all time. So that's amazing in just like 6 short months. We're in the process now of actually restaking the validators because we set them up to be 6 months like the first time around because we weren't really sure, you know, like how often we should do it. Where it's at now, I've been restaking those each week as they expire because we have one expiring each week for the next month or so. And when I restake those, I just set it to the max. So it's restaked for a year in the future. And I think we've already prepaid for a close to a year now as well for the validators. So we're good on that front. And it just feels really good to have that infrastructure in place and sort of like set in stone for the long term. So excited about that. Let's see, next topic, team changes. You know, we had the announcement a couple days ago from Beetle about us sort of like cleaning up some of the roles and things on our team. As everyone kind of knows, it was sort of a rough summer in the crypto space, just from a like app or ecosystem sort of thing, where you saw a lot of like stuff with the markets where it's kind of in like a downturn. We're still sort of in that area right now. That compounded with incidents like Harmony Bridge incident has made it hard for projects to survive during this time. So we internally like met very often, very early about that, about what do we need to change to make sure that we can still have a like runway for this project, because obviously we all care a ton about the project and we want to make sure it has a future. So we went very conservative there. There was a lot of changes to our pay. Most or all, I think all of our team at one point was basically just like working for equity in the project, just basically like sweat equity. And a lot of people, you know, like stayed and were like working very hard through that. And we're very, very grateful for all the efforts from everyone that was put in for that. We had to look at each role very carefully and see like, how are things going here? How critical is this role? Which like roles can we sort of like turn on sooner for like having increased compensations and things as we started to get into like a better spot with our financials, and as we started to work with some of our partners out there to like receive more funding to extend that like runway. It was really sort of like a refiner's fire that we had to pass through, and we're in a much better spot now than we were back then. But it's still, you know, it's still pretty tight. There still isn't anyone on our team that is all the way earning just like straight like wages. It's still I think everyone's half wages and half equity, and so a lot of people are still you know, like in that same boat. So we're trying to very cautiously and conservatively step that up as we can, but it also entailed us having to spend some time and look at each role and figure out, you know, how critical is this role, how important is the stuff that's being done there, and how is it currently going with the people that are doing those roles. So there were a lot of people that were just kind of, for lack of a better word, sort of like inactive, that had sort of either already found jobs somewhere else or had just sort of like stepped away from the project unofficially. So we decided that, you know, as we're in this new sort of spiritual founding phase, as we launch into sort of like 2.0 of our project, with all of the amazing individuals that have stuck it out and are like really critical, we feel like this is a good time to sort of like make sure that everything is cleaned up in our Slack. All of the people that are there are able to be earning in like the short or like the medium term. And if there's any roles that we just weren't able to do that for, then it didn't feel very good to have them still be in our Slack and not be at the same level as others in terms of what we could do. So we kind of cleaned up some of those, and we announced that I think 90% or maybe more of those were already had already stepped away from the project, basically. And yeah, that was very, very good for the project to ensure that the like runway that we are doing is able to still be sustainable in a very real way as we start to receive more of the funding from our partners that is in the works but not yet here. That helps us to set up for that, and it also helps us to have a very strong sort of like a pitch deck for like other projects in the future to come and say, here's who we are, here's who we've got on our project, here's what each person is doing. It's important to have like very strong things there as well. So Dreamer, I know that you had some thoughts on this as well, and also sort of like wanted to talk a little bit about what we're doing for some of the areas that weren't our strong points, or that we as a project feel like we should be focusing on certain things, and we should be relying on the community and on others, and potentially even outsourcing other things in the future as part of our strategy to be more sustainable and more efficient on those fronts. So turn the time over to you.
Yeah, thanks, Fox. Yeah, so I think as we look at Kingdom Studios as a company that's really contracted by the offshore entities that owns the wallets linked to DeFi Kingdoms, we're not intended, I think even as Fox has talked about the future of DeFi Kingdoms early on, we're not intended to be the only contributors to the project. I think there have been many contributors, both on what was previously called like core team and within the community, with that, Sunbear working hard on the Kingdom Builders program. We've seen strides in other games that are using tokens and linked directly in the game through an application process, as well as through the archivist, other services that aren't games. As we look at prior to Kingdom Studios being established and prior to all the difficult things that we've been navigating through to still deliver content, to identify the ways to keep things running, so to speak, and bringing up Crystal parity as well as New Home for Sterndale 2.0. We are working with a very limited budget. Prior to downturn in the market, there was a lot of like creative freedom for the decentralized collective that the team is operating as, where anything we could do, let's bring people on and let's try to do all of it, and let's try to find ways to compensate people in a token that's a variable asset, and therefore to attract really quality people. And I'd say every person that has come in contact with this project and the community on the core team at any point in time, whether they're active currently or not, has been very high quality, and we've loved working with each and every one of them. However, going forward, we really need to use our budget to say, how do we make sure that our chain is running smoothly? How do we make sure that our code is safe? There's so many hacks happening left and right. How are we working with the best partners possible? How are we going to expand our cross-chain gameplay and establishing a safe and self-sustaining ecosystem that allows others to come build on top of it? How do we take the vision of PvP and PvE and other things and really make it come to fruition? Early on, we realized we couldn't hire in a bunch of people to help build what we needed to for the next steps of PvP. So we looked to Wisdom and our partnership there that has been going very, very well. Likely for other things, including potentially lore or marketing and PR, and other parts of the project of DeFi Kingdoms, it may not be 100% the focus of what we have in Kingdom Studios. We may find others to contract with, and we may find others in the community. When you look at Kingdom Builders program, there's a big hole right now in the creative side. Those that do want to write fan art, those that do create fan art or write fan fiction or add lore or create YouTube videos and podcasts. There's so much of that happening but it's nowhere in the game yet. So in the last couple of days, we put our heads together, and Second Best Dad has come up with a pretty awesome NPC that's looking to be added in the castle soon. I believe it's an artist to kind of give a nod to fan artists, and anybody that is in that creative realm can go to the Kingdom Builders site and apply for co-marketing to be highlighted there. That means that if you do have writing or lore or art or videos, we do want them to be included in the ecosystem and metaverse and highlighted, people to get credit, to drive people to that content as a starting point. And in the future, there may be one-off contracts for certain bits that make it into the quote unquote like core game experience, but we are hoping for and confident in the others in the industry and those in the community to build on top of the metaverse of Kingdom Studios, or of DeFi Kingdoms. So hopefully this is a good first step in that direction. It does allow us to be transparent about who is working for either token or equity, and who's in the communication, because all the people that came in contact with core team previously, I think our site didn't fully represent that. So we're just trying to be as transparent as possible in that regard. It might be that in the future, when budgets are looking differently, or priorities are looking differently, or needs of Kingdom Studios is differently, there might be some people that are contracted in through Kingdom Studios. Maybe they're highlighted in the Kingdom Builders program, or maybe there's another company contracted in where we see familiar faces. We do hope that we keep all of those bridges open with everybody within the community that has contributed now and in the future, and really keep our goal on that DeFi Kingdoms remaining a collective project from multiple contractors, companies, and contributors.
Thank you. Yeah. I just also want to sort of like re-echo that sentiment. Like we have such amazing members of our community that are creating fan art, all kinds of like fan fiction, music, helpful like YouTube channels, and just all kinds of amazing stuff. And of course, like we have others that are trying to build like mini games and like other applications and things that will also interface with us. And so historically, we've been trying to work with all those in the building program, but we haven't really worked with a lot of the former, like the creators for like art and like for music and all that stuff as well. And having them be sort of like able to be showcased within our like interface as well, so it has more of a sort of like a first class exposure to our players, so that everyone can see and enjoy those things. And so I'm excited about that, because I think it's going to give a lot of people sort of like a platform for their amazing creative works there. Excited to see where that goes. As Dreamer also mentioned, we have updated our websites to show who is currently on our team, currently active, and currently being paid, and all that as well. So that is there, and it's up to date, and it's accurate, and we want to make sure that that stays up to date. So that's really what all this was about. I guess anything from Beetle or anyone before we move on to that next topic?
I guess I would just echo that like you said, that the people that we worked with in the past are super talented, and there's going to be opportunities in the future as we continue to grow and build something awesome to hopefully bring some of those people back. So yeah, appreciate it.
Fully agree. Like
right.
We've had such amazing people on our project, and they have brought us to where we are now, and we still have amazing people that will that are excited to really like bring us into that next like level that we're going to. So really stoked about the upcoming stuff that's being built, and the stuff in the game, and the direction we're going is just really exciting. So let's see. One thing I did want to talk about is the locked jewel snapshot. I've been getting a lot of questions about that. How does it work? When will it happen? All that type of stuff. And there's some additional things there as well. I've been messaged like many times from all kinds of people in our community or otherwise that have basically been like the victims of like hacks and things. it's a thing here in the crypto space that's unfortunately very common at times. Like you have to be very, very careful with your keys. Some people, like there's apps that will like sniff those out or something or one thing or another, and someone gets hacked, and it has happened in the past to me. Like back in 2017, I was hacked and it sucked, and I think it's almost like a rite of passage, but it's also been sort of one of those things in the crypto space that's like in the blockchain world, you can't undo things. Like there's no undo button. Everyone owns their assets and has their own like custody, and it's a two-edged sword. Like that's what makes it awesome, but that's also what makes it scary. And historically, there's been no real way for them to really get any kind of resolution to that type of stuff. But it was actually brought up from some ideas from some of the community members, and then also we like discussed it internally as well. But there's an opportunity right now that we have as we're doing this snapshot to actually make some of that right. And so we've been sort of thinking about like what can we do, what would we like to do, and what would we like to propose to the community, because obviously we wouldn't be able to do any of these things without the community having a vote saying yes. But we did want to present some ideas and proposals for things that we can do. There was a couple things that happened. There was I think 2 people that I'm aware of that interacted directly with the contracts, and there was a bug on the transfer all function that has been fixed in Crystalvale, but it was a bug in Serendale that if you transferred all to yourself, you basically lost all of your lot jewels. And there wasn't ever anything in our interface that allowed anyone to do that. But if someone was just messing around with the smart contracts directly, they could do that. And it happened to 2 people. So for those people, we have very well documented evidence of like, here's what happened, here's the block, here's the transaction. We can clearly see here was the bug that caused it to happen. And I think there was like 35,000 lot jewels between them both that were lost to the void. So one proposal will be to restore those to those people to the same address, essentially, that were just lost into the void. And I think that's a pretty straightforward one, and I hope that most people would agree that that's a thing we should do. The second one is a little bit more complex, a little bit more nuanced, but it has to do with those hacks. There are instances that are very well documented that have had like police reports and where you've had like incident reports filed with Harmony that were surrounding those hacks, and some of them have even had like the like wallets be like locked that were hacked and things like that. So those locked jewels are essentially actually locked, but they're locked in the wallet of the hacker. I know there's at least one case that I've heard that has all these points. So what that means is under our current proposal for the snapshot, we would be doing a snapshot and airdropping lot jewels to that same hacker's address on the other chain, which would then be basically not locked by Harmony, because Harmony has done something to essentially like blacklist that wallet, but it wouldn't be blacklisted on these other chains. And if we were to airdrop them over there, it's basically handing that hacker those funds, which is how it works with snapshots. But we have an opportunity to change that in cases that are very well documented to the rightful owner again. So that's a proposal that we're putting together as well for the community to see and to vote on. Bolon has been very, very involved with that. He has some great ideas, and I think he's even like written up some of those proposals, which we'll be sharing with the community later. But anything you wanted to add onto that over there, Bolon, about any of the requirements or stuff at a high level?
Yes, that would be great. Yeah, so obviously all of this would be in the proposal as well. But the main thing is just confirming that A, we are giving them back to the right person, and B, that can't somehow end up with duplicate tokens. So some of the basic requirements would be that the lock jewel has to be in a blacklisted wallet, so that way it can't be moved anywhere else. And that way there's no impact from that amount of lock jewel. But they would also need to have like a Harmony incident report, a police report, some kind of official documentation from an official entity that has their real name on it, not their crypto name. So they would need their real name, which they would then also need to prove, like show ID to us essentially. So they would need to dox to us. And then there would be a couple like transaction requirements so that we can verify wallet ownership. But it's really a twofold opportunity, and it's definitely something that, like, normally speaking, would never present itself. It's only because of the move off of Harmony. So it's a one-time opportunity, and if it passes, it's a one-time measure that we can do. But one benefit obviously is the restoration of our community members, and that's really cool. Like that's something that we don't normally get to offer, is to help people who have been hacked, because normally there isn't really anything to be done, but in this case there is something we can do. But the other side of it too is denying those tokens to hackers. So if we don't do this, then those tokens, like Fox said, are going to get airdropped to that same wallet address on other chains where they are not blacklisted, and so that hacker will now gain access to those funds. So we're kind of rewarding them when we kind of beat them prior. So I think it's a really good opportunity. I think it's a really unique chance that we have to do something really big for our community members. And so I'm really excited for it. To Fox's point, I've written up a couple proposals. We're going to refine those before we put them out, but it will be something coming out, and then anybody will be able to apply. And if they meet the qualifications, then we can make them whole.
I just wanted to give some live kudos to Bolon. I think when the Harmony Bridge incident happened, we were looking at, okay, how do we survive? How do we get Crucible parity? Where do we look for a new home? And it was kind of like the minimum things that we had to focus on. Then as we were looking at everything that we need to do to make that happen, I mean, the people that we have in the community and people that we have working with Bolon, and as well as others, it's incredible how we were constantly stopping, taking a step back and saying, what else should we be doing in this process? And as this came up, there was unanimous support on the team. There's a lot of people very excited because the hacks and everything we're seeing, they just suck. And oftentimes there's nothing you can do about it. Well, a lot of really smart, sincere, genuine people got together and said, well, there is something we could do about it for this one time. You take it, it's a silver lining with what happened. So we really request that as these go out, educate yourselves in what they mean, and we hope that everybody supports the proposal to make some things right for people that have not had the best experience due to others that had malintent.
Yep. I also want to echo that. Kudos to Bolon and all of our amazing knights and our amazing community members. We're here to look out for each other, and really that's what this is about. So yeah, we'll be sharing those proposals. I think we've already written up most of them, and stay tuned for those. I think we'll have a Google form where anyone who is in that situation can submit evidence and a request to start that ball rolling. Of course, all of that is after we hold the vote, assuming that the vote gets passed. So the proposal is to put this process in place, and then we'll put that to the community for a vote, and then after that hopefully passes, then we'll be able to proceed from there. So yep.
I think we're looking at sometime next week potentially for that vote, correct?
Yes, there's probably a few votes we'll be doing, and yeah, there's the one for the hacked accounts, and there's the other one for the the bug, basically, which I hope is a lot more clean cut as well. So we'll have two of those plus another one for cJewel that we'll be talking about here in a bit as well. So yeah, hopefully that helps to answer questions there. As far as the snapshot itself, Pinecone and Burberber have been hard at work making sure that all of the I's are dotted there for that. And we have, I think it was a very, very 99.9 something % accuracy for that vote, or for that snapshot. And we will be performing that again right before it happens, as we announce the exact block that will take place in. So stay tuned for that, and yeah, we'll go from there. Chainlink event. We did want to spend a minute talk about events. Some of you who were here last week might remember I held sort of a mini AMA that was just me because I was at the event in New York City for Chainlink along with Magnus, and a lot of others on our team were in Singapore actually at that time, where it was the middle of the night for our AMA. So rather than having the usual AMA last week, I just did a little bit of updates from Fox, and that was really cool. Sorry about all the noise. It was really loud there as well, but it was a lot of fun, and I did sort of want to spend a minute and talk about that event. I was able to attend with Magnus, and Chainlink was kind enough to provide us with tickets and with our hotel rooms as well. And we had a slot for speaking actually. So we spoke about randomness on the blockchain, which is a thing that we've had quite a bit of experience with over this last year, and sort of just about all of the things that we have experienced and like issues that we ran into and how we overcame them, etc. So that was really cool, but it was also just really cool to be there and to feel the energy of all the other projects that are still here, even in the bear market, that are super excited for the future and that are building. And we're one of those projects. And it was really cool to be with other like-minded individuals. It was also very informative. It was a developer-centered, like sort of a conference there. And so there was a lot of really, really good sessions that we attended to hear more about like how to do like on-chain governance and like how to use some of the cool offerings from Chainlink, including automation and cross-chain communications and things. And also, of course, like randomness that they offer as well. And we also had the amazing opportunity to have lunch with, I think, 5 of the Chainlink execs who were there. And they just were asking us questions the whole time about, like, what's your opinion about this for GameFi? And like, how do you guys handle this? And what do you think will happen with that? And how could we make use of like some of their offerings that they have, including like randomness and automation, things like that? And how do we bring them to our chain and like have those tools be available for all of the other people that want to build on our chain? So it was a really, really great lunch, a really great experience there. And I'm like really looking forward to seeing what will come from that as well. Magnus was there and he did an amazing job. He was networking and just attending the events and things. And I'll let him sort of share some updates there and how he thought about it. And then we'll switch over to talk about Singapore.
Yeah, so I would say it was definitely valuable to go and be in New York in person at SmartCon. Fox and I had the chance to spend some time face to face, which we don't normally get since we're all kind of working in a distributed environment. Our time was split between kind of attending technical talks to make sure we're staying at the forefront of what's possible in the Web3 world. Also, like Fox mentioned, meeting with execs and heads of product at Chainlink, and also kind of learning about other chains and other kind of Web3 products that are out to make sure we're kind of staying aware of those and making connections with those other projects that are kind of breaking the mold. And Chainlink also has some awesome products coming out that align with blockchain gaming. So I look forward to researching those and hopefully integrating those with the game as those are released. And like Fox mentioned, we also gave a technical talk on chain randomness and all the challenges we faced making that come to fruition in a deterministic environment on the blockchain. The recording for that talk may be floating around the internet somewhere if you're interested in seeing that, though I haven't had a chance to look for it myself. And then also mentioned that our time slot was on the last day, and I think like the second to last speaking slot, and people are starting to kind of catch flights back home and whatnot, and we still had the room packed with folks standing in the back. So it was really great to see that everybody attend that talk, even though it was kind of late in the day and late in the conference, even in the middle of a bear market. So very good to see there. That's it for me.
Yep, it was really, really awesome energy, and I had a lot of questions about like, oh, like DeFi Kingdoms, I've heard of you guys, or oh, I've actually played your game. Like probably most of the people that I talked to had actually played our game, which was just amazing. I had a lot of compliments for the art and for like the music, and I was very happy and excited to say, oh well, that's like that's Cinnamon Bun, or that's like Sam, or that's Second Best Dad, and like we have some really amazing, like very talented people on our team there for that. And we also had the opportunity to meet with Jong Yoon Kim from Clayton. He was there, and he spent some time with us. We got lunch with him, and we talked about some of their plans for the future for Clayton, and how it could have some overlap with what we're doing, and how like we could collaborate on some of those things. He's like one of their lead devs over there, so that was awesome. And then also we like ran into some of our old friends from Ava Labs who were there. We saw Luigi, Eric, and Daniel, and others, and it was really nice to see them. And of course, there was a lot of people that asked us about like why Subdance, like how's that working out, and we had just all these amazing things like to say about Ava Labs, and about how awesome it's been for us as a project. So really, really good and positive experience there. And speaking of really awesome experiences, Singapore had a event as well, and I'll let Dreamer kind of talk about that for a bit, and then we'll hear probably from Pieface and Sunbear and Poppy and Bolin and others who are there. So turn the time over to you guys.
Nice. Yeah, I'll give an overview of kind of what our collective input has been on how productive it was, and then yeah, maybe 30 seconds to a minute each on maybe sharing what everybody's favorite memory was from it, or anything else to highlight. But I am gonna probably talk fast. Sorry, Sandwich, but I don't think he's on live. I think he's probably doing the recording. But we've been to a lot of events now in the last year, and this one felt like it had the most, I guess, professional energy, the most positivity, really, really helpful interactions, and quality conversations. We got to sit at a booth with Clayton. It was our first time meeting most, if not all of them, outside of David, who I'd met in person in NC. But they're an incredible team. They come off to be very organized, really sincere and smart. We had a part of the booth where people came up and they would see Clayton and they'd look closer and see our shirts and be like, oh, DeFi Kingdoms, and started to talk through it. 2 days of the team being on their feet for, I don't know, probably 10 hours each day, and a lot of time setting up before and after, and a lot of side events and networking efforts as well. It was a lot. It was a lot to get there and travel. Some traveled up to 50 or maybe even more hours and get right to it, and then get home. So a lot of good efforts that yielded in discussions, with various games that many of which actually expressed early on. DeFi Kingdoms gave them their ideas for their own games, and it was kind of interesting. Some people were like, almost wasn't sure how we would react to that narrative, and we're surprised, and we're like, hey, that's awesome. You should look at the Kingdom Builder site and see if there's any way we might be able to highlight or collaborate or have some type of partnership. So a lot of other games that we talked to, some of which were very well established and on other major chains, that we're looking at ways that we could have some cross-chain, cross game collaboration as well, which is going to be really exciting. There were a ton of different centralized exchanges there. I can think of about 4 that came up and had 10 to 20 minute discussions on the potential listing of xJewel. In the past, we've expressed that isn't something we were primarily focused on. There were concerns around perpetual contracts. There were concerns around game utility tokens being removed from the game ecosystem. But with the restructuring of our tokens and the new utility of xJewel, it actually sets us up much better to have some xJewel go out of the game beyond other dexes and centralized exchanges, as it acts as more of a gas token, governance token, fee sharing, and premium services token as well. So those are really exciting. Most of those discussions involved reduced or removed listing fees and other incentives. So we will take those steps cautiously and slowly, but it was very, very good for everybody to see us at the Clayton booth and those discussions happening. We also had a couple interviews be done, one of which was from the folks that run the Edge of NFT podcast and run NFT LA. So when those are released, we'll be releasing them on our socials as well. I think there are a handful of others that we'll probably link on when they are ready. But a lot of interest and folks from the team that were present to talk about GameFi, to talk about DeFi Kingdoms, and why we chose Clayton as our kind of new home for Serendale 2.0. A lot of guilds came up, some with a ton of followers and backing that are looking for ways to get more involved. Some excitement around, multi-questing, some excitement around some other features that have been mentioned that are in the process, both in, automation as well as a champion program, which would most likely be linked to any type of PvP rather than questing, since we're solving for that a bit differently. There was a very interesting group of professionals that came up with like tax backgrounds and legal backgrounds that were very interested to have detailed conversations. One of these legal guys had a lot of very direct questions about our structure and about the risk that we're taking. And you could tell that he was really trying to see if he could poke any holes. And working with Ashbury Legal has not only been really good from our perspective, but this was kind of like a good check, finger in the air, because there was nothing that he asked us that we didn't have concrete answers for, in terms of protection, in terms of strategy, in terms of decentralization and governance. So that was awesome. The tax professional was actually really excited. He talked with Sunbear at length about some of the tools that we have, and we might be looking to work with that group or similar groups to have more in-game options, so that new players that come in don't have to completely fend for themselves and try to figure out the whole world of taxes in the countries that they're in. DeFi protocols, dexes and aggregators, some really big names, super excited to see us there, looking at ways that we might be able to work together. More to come. Those discussions are already happening in Telegram, and some of which we're pulling into like shared Slack channels. See, I'm looking at my list here. A lot of folks from the community that we haven't seen at other events, just given the part of the world. Some really, really cool people that have a ton of heroes, really dedicated, took some pictures, high-fived, and did, a lot of interaction. I think Bolon and Risen are definitely celebrities at these events when they get to see them in person. They're just as or even more warm and lively in person than they are on their streams and everything. So a lot of fun had there and a lot of good relationships made. I have talked for a bit. There's a lot more to highlight, but let's turn it over and go. I don't know, Bolon, if you want to kick us off, then we can go Risen, Sunbear Pie, and Poppy. And if people can share either anything that you feel like I missed that was really important to highlight, or one of your favorite moments of the event and trip, that would be great.
Mine will be brief. Just thought it was really cool to get to meet a lot of community members that probably never would have gotten to otherwise. Got to meet a knight that I probably wouldn't have gotten to otherwise. So it's just really cool getting to meet people that, I've interacted with many times, but never thought that I would have that opportunity to actually meet them in person. So that was really cool. And then just to Dreamer's point, so many opportunities for different people to work with that they're just very, very excited about the potential to work with us. So really cool to see that as well.
I'll also add on there, that's the biggest thing that I took away, was just of all the events me and Bolon and the team have gone to, we've never seen people be as excited. The decisions that we're making, the move to Clayton, the progress that we've made during the bear, people are noticing. They're seeing the projects that have dropped off, or the projects that have slowed down or stopped posting or stopped doing things, and we're being taken seriously on a world stage at this point, and it is very exciting. You guys would have been ecstatic hearing some of the conversations from big name people from other games, from the lawyers, from the exchanges. It just was crazy. Fantastic experience.
Nice, yeah. Token 2049 was incredible. The Clayton booth, the location of it was awesome. We got so much foot traffic, so we were super, super busy. We learned about the crypto space in Asia in general, and it just made us so excited for our expansion in the Asian markets. And we're so grateful for Clayton for inviting us to their booth. It brought in so many exciting opportunities and exposure. And I love seeing people's eyes light up at the drawstring bags and bloater pins and stickers that we handed out. and meeting community members is incredible as well. My background is Taiwanese, and so there's this YouTube channel by these awesome guys. They were in DFK very early on, and I was kind of brushing up on my Chinese a little bit with them, and it was just so great to see them, other community members in person, and yeah, I'm excited for more to come in the future. But yeah, I love meeting everybody. You guys are awesome.
Hey everyone.
Yeah.
I'll just. Oh, sorry, Poppy. Go ahead.
I forgot what order we were going in, so I just started talking. Sorry. Yeah, I'll just second what everyone else said, that it was awesome and it was such a great event. It was pretty cool that basically everyone I talked to, where I was like, hey, have you heard of DeFi Kingdoms? They're like, yes, of course we've heard of you. Now tell us more. So yeah, that's all I had to say. It was great. We loved it. We made a lot of great connections. Most of my connections were with people wanting to write about us. So I feel like you're going to see like lots of news about DeFi Kingdoms, even more than you have been.
Yeah, I feel like in past events, I've spent most of my time telling people about DeFi Kingdoms, doing a demo, explaining how it works and everything. I feel like in this event, that was like 10% of my time spent, where the other was just people coming up, interested in partnering, interested in, finding some way of working with us. A couple things I was really excited about, a few different groups really wanting to improve like on and off ramping for folks in various parts of the world, wanting to to gamify their protocols. Lots of guilds or like support tools for guilds that have access to hundreds of thousands of players, and ways to really bring other folks, bring Web2 gamers into Web3 and wanting to include us in that process. But one of my favorite moments, Dreamer did mention, one person came up and just said, hey, my CEO plays DeFi Kingdoms all the time. He's a huge fan. He sent me over here. He's not here, but he sent me over here to get some swag and meet you guys. And so we did that. And I said, well, what do you do? And he's a crypto tax professional group, and was surprised. He's like, oh, it's not that important. And, you're probably not going to be interested in this. But I'm like, yes, our community needs this. Let's partner. Let's talk about it. Told him about the bounty we did last December and some of the great tools that came out of that for our community, and ways that we can partner to help things for you all. So it was just, you wouldn't even imagine that we were in a bear market when you're in that space, because there's such good energy for what's going on in these spaces and what we're doing. It was very exciting.
Well, I was super jealous. I actually was over in Singapore in the summer, and I was like, man, I want to go back. It's just such an amazing city. Asia in general, it's almost, well, it is exactly like there isn't even a bear market there. Like, you don't hear people talking about the bear market there. I think Dreamer mentioned that a few times as well. Like, everyone's just super excited about like the stuff that's being built in the future, and so are we. So it was really a great like synergy there with that energy. And it was, of course, like really amazing to have the opportunity to head over there and meet all of the people from like the Clayton side of things as well. Actually, their headquarters is over there in Singapore. So just really excited about the future there as we are starting to close Serendale. I think actually this next week we'll be looking at replacing the current map there with more of just like an outpost that will still stay there for as long as is like possible, to just allow people to still be able to withdraw their like heroes, and if they have anything in the bank still or in the gardens, they'll still have ways to essentially like withdraw those and have them get bridged over to our other chains as well. So as we are closing that up, and then we're sort of like starting to shift into like, okay, let's start overdrive now for having Serendale 2.0 launch on Clayton. Like, we're really excited about that as well. So yeah, great recap on the events. Obviously, there's a lot of amazing stuff. And I think the last point that hopefully we'll have enough time to, it is a pretty big point, but it's cJewel. I sort of mentioned this last week a little bit. I also tweeted about it. I don't, or for like any of you that are on Twitter, I feel sorry for you, but you can head over there and see my tweets about that as well. And we also wanted to spend some time now to just kind of expound on some of those points, because we've been sort of brainstorming for a long time, like what can we do that will be even better for our xJewel type sort of like replacement. Because as you remember, part of the vote that we did a month ago when we were having to vote for the Clayton and the stuff that we were planning to change for the economics, part of that was basically doing a new jeweler on Crystal Vale and also on our future Serendale 2.0. And so we had this opportunity to really look at what xJewel was and say, what does it do well? Let's keep that. And what can we improve on? And let's add a bunch of awesome new things to that there. So Hubert and Magnus were involved in that, and I have been writing most of the code for that as well. Although Hubert actually surprised us and said, here's some Solidity code that you could start from. And it really blew me away, because historically he hasn't really done a lot of coding. And I was just like, wow, this is amazing. So he also was very much involved with like the math and the like mechanics of that. So I'll let him talk a little bit about that. And he actually has some one page, or he has some slides and some other things he'll be sharing with everyone here. And the plan for that is, after we sort of introduce it here more and kind of talk about it, we would like to schedule a proposal for that to be voted on early next week. So Hubert, turn the time over to you.
Thanks, Fox. Yeah, so this is going to be a little bit of time, so buckle in, guys. I did want to mention one thing real fast. Fox said I don't code, but engineers do learn how to code. So I do have kind of a coding background, but not like a dev like all the like Fox and everyone else. But yeah, so the code I gave them was full of bugs for sure. But just something to help them out with and get things going. And from here, I'm going to give you guys a presentation. I think Dragon Tea is also going to be streaming this on YouTube as well. So there might be a link and you can follow that as she's doing it, or you can just look at the presentation. I'll try to like talk through it and tell you where I'm at as we go. Unfortunately, with Discord, it's a little bit unfortunate how things are set up. So here is the link in the chat, and we'll go ahead and get started on what we have. So on slide 2, this is just kind of giving you an overview of what is cJewel and in the future xJewel. xJewel is just going to be the Serendale version of this, and cJewel is the Crystal Vale version, but they're functionally both the same thing in how they operate. What we looked at was the V token model that is used by Curve, which has a lot of neat benefits that we wanted to see how we could implement that into here. So kind of the big differences about V token and how that works is not only do you deposit Jewel into, like if we just say apply it here, in this case, it's not only would you be applying or depositing Jewel into the jeweler, you would also be setting a period of time that Jewel would be locked for. You can lock between 7 to 195 days. So there's a pretty wide window of days that you can lock for. And then it uses a formula based on how much time you were locking plus how much you're depositing to actually generate how much cJewel you get. And then with that cJewel, if you deposit for a short period of time, you will only get a little bit of cJewel. You'll still get all of your jewel back once you withdraw, but just like the amount of cJewel you have is little. Or you can, lock for a larger period of time, get a lot more cJewel, and gain the benefits from that. And I'll be walking through how that works. Did I say wrong? Yeah, it's 1,095 days. It's 3 years. So from 1 week to 3 years. So sorry about that. Yes, so then the other things. So if we do this model, it does work differently than how xJewel works, where with xJewel, the Jewel xJewel ratio is just changing over time as more Jewel is being fed into the jeweler from fees. And then you can just sell your xJewel to get more Jewel than you put in, essentially. In this case, we can't do that. It can't be applied to that model in the same way. So we're going to do it a bit differently, but it essentially does work in the same way in that all the same amount of fees are coming in, and they are all being distributed to the people that deposited in the order, like how much you have as far as cJewel goes versus everyone else at that time. So everything is still tracked in like the end result is the same. It's just the process is different. So and then also we want to be using cJewel to allow us to have kind of a subscription service for premium features. We've kind of mentioned this a little bit in the past as well, but like one thing to bring up would be like experience buffs. But there's a lot of other things that we have planned, and as we develop, we'll be using this and considering how we could add a subscription or if it would apply in this case as well. So that's just kind of a quick little overview, a lot of information there. And so let me go ahead and just give you a whole bunch more information. So
Let me just pop in a quick few questions. So the subscriptions, I know that's sort of a new thing that we've alluded to. They're a little different from just regular subscriptions. You aren't really paying and giving up jewels or whatever to have things, but it's more of just staking them towards that. So it's sort of like activating, but still maintaining and owning those jewels, right?
Right. Yeah. It's essentially, as long as you have the amount, you can do it. But it's, say there's like, just as just a complete example, say there's like 5 different subscriptions that are 20 that require you have 20 cJewel. You would have to have, if you wanted all those subscriptions, you'd have to have 100 cJewel, but it doesn't actually take away that cJewel from you. It's just, you just need to have it, and then that would give you
It's
access.
just like an extra benefit to having
Right.
it staked. Nice.
Yes.
Love it. Great. Please continue. Sorry to interrupt.
Yep, no problem. All right. Okay, so moving on. Here's some maths for you on slide 3. So that's the actual formula, how that works. So it's fairly simple, just a linear formula, just how much Jewel you're depositing multiplied by the ratio of the number of days locked divided by the max number of days that you can lock, which is 1,095. And that will determine how much cJewel you get. There's an example down there. Keel and Rolando gave it a test run. Keel decided he had 50,000 Jewel. He decided he just wanted to deposit for a week, and so he got 320 cJewel out of that. Rolando does not like being outdone by Keel, but he also did not have as many Jewel as him. So rather than depositing so much, he just went with depositing for a longer length. For only 960 Jewel deposited and locked for a year, he could get the same amount of cJewel as Keel with his 50,000. So the key takeaway there is it's not only about how much Jewel you have, it's about how much Jewel plot and how long you're locking. So it does give some people the ability, those that are more long on the project, that lock for longer, will have more influence and also gain more benefits for a longer period of time from that as well.
One of the things I really like about this is it really like helps to reward some of, I guess, some people refer to them as like minnows that are also like very long on like the game, to still have more of a outsized amount of say and like rewards that they're able to be shared with for that. It's sort of like rewarding those that are like really invested in like the long term. So I'm excited about that too, because it means like while the whales are still being rewarded, there's also just like they can't just influence things really quickly and then not have a lot of skin in the game. Like it has to be both. So I like that aspect of it.
Just as you mentioned that, Fox, I did just want to add to your point, like when it comes to votes or really attractive screenshots, which note we are cooking up some interesting and more frequent snapshots, not screenshots, snapshots to reward holders here. It'll be a lot harder for people to come in that have significant amount of balances, and right before the snapshot, get a bunch of what was previously xJewel, and then be in it, and then once it's done, pull out. I think if somebody who's playing the shorter term game, they still can, but there's definitely that added benefit for those that are interested in a longer term hold, that every time snapshots and other things come up, you're getting that benefit along with a larger chunk of the fees that come in. So I know that we probably heard it 3 different times, but with new information, just wanted to make sure that's a really huge benefit for us all that are really focused on that either mid or longer term.
Yep. Yeah, I do think it has, like you guys said, there's a lot of nice benefits with this. And yeah, I guess I'll keep moving forward here. So slide 4 is where I'm going next. Get into even more technicals. This is kind of going.
Skim some of these, but
yeah. Well, I think what's important is to just understand that there are some differences with how the jeweler works now. You can just deposit and withdraw and claim. There's those 3 functions, and the claim function doesn't, it's kind of been a point of confusion for a lot of people, but what that does is just convert all the LP fees into the power token, jewel or crystal in the current xJewel and xCrystal scheme. Here you have a few different things that you can do. Like the first time you deposit, you have to set a time and a locking period. After that point, if you want to get more cJewel, you can either deposit more jewel, and it would be locked for the same amount of time as the rest of your jewel. So everything in your jeweler balance has the same locking period. You can't have like multiple sets in the same wallet of like locking periods. And so you could increase your amount. That'll give you more cJewel. You can also just increase your unlock time and not even deposit anymore, and also get more cJewel. And then there's kind of the process of how fees work is kind of how a lot of the rest of the stuff work. The number 7 on there is kind of an important one. Because it is a time locking, it is if you can withdraw after that locking period is over, but if you want to withdraw before that point, you can use an emergency withdrawal function, but there is a major penalty to do that of 50% of your locked jewel. The locked jewel would be burned. So only to be used in an emergency, but it is there as an option just in case. Though it does kind of encourage everyone to be, thoughtful about how long you're locking your jewel for. Don't 3 years is a long time, so make sure that if you are going to lock for that long, that you have really thought about that, because otherwise your only other option would be that emergency withdrawal. So the next piece here is on slide 5 is also another technical piece, but just kind of explaining how the fees from the game would go into this contract. Essentially, it's a 2 contract pair where you're using a fee collector contract that's taking in, like, all the fees are going to it, and then anytime anyone interacts with the jeweler contract, when they deposit or they withdraw or extend their time or any of that, it will cause what is in the fee collector contract to get converted to jewel and then sent to the jeweler contract, and everyone's rewards balances will be updated at that point. So just kind of an infographic of how that works. It's very close to how the Gardens contract works. We essentially use the exact same math, and actually that math is kind of complicated, but after understanding it, it's quite beautiful. So I'm sure not many people appreciate that, but there's a link there at the bottom if you want to learn how that all works. I really enjoyed it. So yeah, so that's kind of a lot of the technical stuff. Then just the last couple slides, slide 6 is just kind of going over what we've already talked about, just the benefits of holding cJewel. It's used for governance, and like we already talked about, there is, because of the way the time locking works, it is a lot more robust for, the people that are more invested in the project for the long term are able to have more of a say versus those that aren't. Same thing with rewards as well. The more cJewel you have, the larger share of the rewards you will receive. And you're also able to, let's see. Oh, that's the next slide. And then the last thing is just the subscriptions and how that works. And we have already kind of discussed that as well. And then just a few final points on slide 7. Just So cJewel would be soul bound to your wallet, so you can't transfer it anywhere. It's there so you can see your balance, and so we can handle everything. But if we allowed that to not be soul bound, it would actually break the whole way this works. So we can't do that. Let's see. You still can hold your cJewel after the locking period expires. So you'll still have your governance power and your rewards coming in. The only time you lose your cJewel is when you withdraw, and when you withdraw, you have to withdraw your full balance. So if you did want to like reduce your position, you'd have to withdraw and then redeposit in your reduced amount. I talked about that subscription bullet, and then yeah, just the last point, I kind of alluded to this as well. Like, and this is just my expectation, just off the cuff, how I think people will behave is that most will lock for periods of a year or less. I just want to make sure that, you know, with the system, there needs to be some caution with what you're doing, just to prevent any major regrets for locking for too long. You know, we do have it open for that period of time, but I don't expect most people to actually lock for that period of time. So, and yeah, that's kind of a full overview. It is there's a lot there. Thank you for, you know, bearing through all the math and everything, but I'm excited for this. We do have a community vote to accept this as what we do. I guess the alternative would be to just follow the same xJewel model that we did in the past, but this we think would be much more robust and healthy for the system. So yeah, and that's all of that.
I'll add some more thoughts to this too, because I've been stoked about this. This is probably our 12th or 13th iteration on this, as we've, you know, created all kinds of like models and ideas, and this one really does address every single like issue that we had, and all of the pain points that we had with xJewel have been addressed. One of the most important ones of those, I think, is the like robustness of the ability for, if we have a upcoming vote, it's a lot harder for like a really big whale to come in and essentially like use like a flash loan or something and suddenly head in and buy up a bunch of xJewels, and then immediately after they vote, head over and sell them all. That's what you don't want to see in these types of governance things. It opens you up for all kinds of attacks and things. So that's important, but also from the aspect of like snapshots, you know, in the past, we have had all kinds of issues with snapshots where we have to basically do it in such a way that we take averages over like a month's like worth of time to ensure that we're actually like rewarding those that are holding it rather than just a like one-time snapshot. But with this other model, that's already built in, so we don't have to worry about that. This allows us to have much more frequent snapshots that are announced in advance that everyone can sort of like look forward to, and we'll be doing a lot more of those too as well. So stay tuned for that. I'm stoked about that. And the other thing I really like about this model is, unlike xJewel, where you just sort of accrue jewels, but you don't really get them until you withdraw. Under this model, you actually it's actually very similar to how it works in the gardens, where you'll be accruing your share of the rewards that are coming in like real time, and can basically claim those anytime you want without having to unstake your stuff there. It'll still be there. So it's a lot more like LP tokens that you can leave state and just every day harvest your like rewards off of that too. So I'm stoked about that aspect. Dreamer, I know you had some thoughts of this as well, and then we'll wrap up.
Yeah, I think you highlighted a lot of the great pieces, and you know, this is a decision that it's not really any decisions that happen these days that are just from like one or even two people. We have committees set up that govern a lot of these, and Hubert came with a very, very good idea and worked with many others to bring it past that initial stage of ideation. And I think we spent almost 4 hours in a tokenomics committee this week to get this and present it. So I hope that people see the work and the intention in this proposal. We do hope that people can support it and see all the perks that Fox and Hubert have mentioned, and the some of them that haven't gone over in detail. One specifically that I personally really like is when you look at the high penalty for the emergency withdraw option, and I think it's going to be really designed to make it clear that it's an emergency withdrawal. It's not just a casual, oh, you can withdraw. No big. You lose 50% of your initial stake. It's meant to be an emergency. I planned for a year, something big came up. I would like to pull out. I have looked at all of my returns that I've gotten from the fees that have flowed through. Those have been liquid, but that initial stake, I'm going to forego 50% to not honor the initial intended time period of staking. Where does that go? It is currently slated to be and proposed to be 100% burned. That means, let's say that we have a scenario where the overall world is facing issues, the industry is facing volatility, or other things happen, many of which we saw happen even this year, where things that we thought would never occur occurred. 3 sigma or greater events occurred, and people felt the need to have a flight to different type of a security or safety of their assets. And as some of that was in the jeweler, and you have xJewel, and it's quite liquid. It's very easy to just pull out, send it to where you want, or put it back in when you feel like it. What this model helps with is if people need to exercise that emergency withdrawal option and do forego a portion of a significant portion of the initial staking, that being burned helps a lot with downward pressure in let's call it like a run on the, I won't say the B word, but a run on the jeweler scenario. We want to continue to find ways to have stability and in both bull markets and bear markets, and in scenarios that come unexpectedly. If there were an event where, let's say, 10 to 20% of stakers in the jeweler felt the need to early withdraw, the fact that half of that initial staked amount will be burned will adjust the denominator in the overall calculation of live price of jewel, and will slow the bleed of overall resulting price drop. So in a tail risk scenario, this is a huge benefit to the stability, especially those that would have otherwise not wanted to pull out their jewel from the jeweler, but maybe felt like they need to because of the domino effect that they might be seeing unfold. So hopefully people see that. There's not only all the pros that have been added, but it's huge safety pro as well in scenarios that we never and really can't see coming, but we can do our best to plan and prepare for and integrate into the overall way that the tokenomics are structured.
Yep, that's an exciting part too, and I know that a lot of people on that committee were like very concerned that we added in all kinds of basically safeguards against things like that to ensure that it is very robust and able to withstand all kinds of different things in the future. So yeah, that is cJewel in a nutshell.
Real quick, I wanted to pass on one question as well as one thing that we've kind of said and we've said before, but just to say it again, cJewel for Crystal Veil, xJewel for Sarandale 2.0, each one will have its own form essentially, so that's why they're both referenced. But the question I wanted to pass on is the fee sharing. Is it chain specific? So fees on Crystal Veil will feed into the cJewel rewards. Fees on Sarandale will feed into the xJewel rewards, but they will not cross.
That is correct. Yeah, that's the intention there. So you can sort of choose which one you think has essentially the most upside. Also, which one that you'll be playing on more, so that you'll be able to use those activations there for the subscription things as well. But as far as the power that they have for snapshots and proposal votes and things like that, it is the same. So hopefully that helps to clear it up. Cool. So that's cJewel in a nutshell. Sorry, we're a bit over. Actually, probably should apologize to the other meetings that I'm gonna have to reschedule. But I think this was really worth it. It's important that we present these cases, and we'll have a few upcoming proposals to be able to be voted on early next week. So stay tuned for those. This will be one of them. And I'm personally very stoked about this. I think it takes all of the things we love about xJewel and it makes it more like robust and rewarding for the holders. So I'm super excited for that. Yeah, so feel free to ask any questions you have about cJewels in chats or on the boards. We'll probably see some there, and we'll be sure to answer those as well. And other than that, I think those are the main things. We didn't, unfortunately, have a lot of time to really hit into the AMA questions, as it was kind of like 2 weeks worth of stuff squished into one. But we'll make sure to be hitting those as well in the future, so stay tuned. And I guess with that, Bolan, I'll turn it back over to you if there's anything else. If not, we can just get this wrapped up, I guess.
Yeah, I think we're good to wrap up. Appreciate everybody being here and bearing with us. We had a lot of updates this week, but like I said at the beginning, we will get back to everybody's questions. So they're still there. Don't worry about it. We will get to them. But we appreciate everybody being here and tuning in for these many, many good updates.
Awesome. Well, thanks everyone for coming. We really appreciate all the people here in our community. You guys are great, and the energy and encouragement that we receive every day from you guys is just amazing. Our team is also super talented and amazing. I'm very, very grateful for each and every person on our team. All of those that have contributed in like one way or another to our project over the past year, and all those that will be doing all the amazing things that are on our like roadmap as we move forward. And it's going to be just amazing. So I'm stoked. I'm going to be having most of my weekend be spent on cJewel stuff because we still have to write some of the tests and things for it. Duels are close. I know I've been saying it for a while, but it's really close now. I was able to fix some things last night and early this morning with the like matchmaking, and I'm super excited for that to be close. And I guess with that, we'll just wrap it up with a very big thank you to everyone for listening, and bullish.
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 Bullish.